Hello?
I really tried to be kind.
Toby and his friend, Jamil, do a political, not-so-political activism, whereby they break into the homes of affluential community members and write a graffiti, "I came by." At the movie's beginning, Toby and Jamil do their thing in the home of a rich man named Angus, who returns home with his lover, and shockingly finds the inscription on his wall. After that night's action, Toby and Jamil go their separate ways, and at the train station, Toby takes a purse from a rich man's pocket. He behaves as if the purse dropped by itself. Then he gives the man back to get some thank you bonus. He takes this money and gives it to the beggar beside him. I want to imagine it's a take from the rich and give to the poor initiative. Anyways, Toby takes the train and goes back home. The following day, Jamil works in the home of a judge, Hector. He sees it as an excellent opportunity for them to find new prey. Then he enters the house, takes a picture of one of the home appliances, and sends it to Toby. Hector finds him inside, but when he tells him he is only looking for a bathroom, Hector leads him to the bathroom. However, when Jamil returns home, he shows the picture of Hector's building to his girlfriend Naz. Naz comments that she knows Hector, and he was her supervisor's friend. She tells him that her supervisor calls Hector Saint Hector due to his love for the masses. That day, Naz tells Jamil that she is pregnant with his baby. Happily, Jamil meets with Toby and tells him Hector might not be part of the wicked rich ones according to Naz's words, and also tells him he wants out of their operation. He informs Toby that Naz is pregnant, and he is already on a feds list. He tells him he doesn't want to raise his child in prison, so he no longer wants to involve himself in their acts. He advises Toby to stop too, but Toby accuses him of just wanting to keep the pregnancy to make Naz happy, and asks why anyone would wish to raise a child at 23. Jamil replies to him dramatically and tells him someone like his mother. Ouch. Anyways, since Jamil isn't interested in their acts again, Toby decides to continue on his own. The day before his night's duty, he packs his necessities and watches a YouTube video where a commenter says his acts are wrong. Irrespective of his public disposition, he goes to Hector's home that night. He breaks into the house and looks for a good spot for his design. He checks around the house and he finds a basement. He checks the pictures on the table and finds something that poses trouble for him throughout his life. Meanwhile, Hector is playing cricket with his friend William, who is a police superintendent. Hector receives an alarm from his home, and he tells William he needs to leave. However, before arriving home, Toby sees the man he hid in the basement. He enters the house, and his alarm goes off too. He assumes the house is fine, but notices something different with the picture in his sitting room. Well, Toby is still inside the house. Luckily for him, Williams calls Hector. While Hector is distracted by the call, Toby sneaks out of the house and lies by the garden to avoid being caught. On the other hand, Naz announces her pregnancy to her parent, and they chase her out of the house. Disturbed, Jamil drives his girlfriend back home, but meets Toby by his door. He asks Naz to enter while he speaks to Toby. Toby attempts to confide in Jamil about what he has seen, but Jamil has his issues. He reminds Toby that he has warned him and doesn't want to get involved. Without any direction on what to do, Toby places a call to the police department. 2 members of the police force visit Hector. They tell him what they heard, and he tells them they have probably been pranked. They search around the house, but they do not find the secret basement. With no proof to arrest Hector, they leave. Toby watches them leave without knowing what to do. He returns home to think, but his widowed mother, Lizzie, disturbs him to clean the kitchen. He attempts to leave the house, and Lizzie, angry about her son's lack of direction, takes the home key from him. She tells him she has met and worked with several young guys in life, but they're all fighting for something, only Toby isn't. Toby replies that she can't understand what he is fighting for. Then he leaves the house after telling her not to expect him back. He goes to Hector's house, bearing in mind that he will save the prisoner. Unfortunately, Toby has been set up by Hector, who is actually in front of the house. Toby enters, gets to the basement, and tries to set the man free. When he hears Hector's footsteps, he hides in a cupboard, and Hector goes to the man. He comes out and takes an axe from Hector's collection. As he enters the basement to attack him, he slips on a trap dropped by Hector. Hector hits him with a bat and kills him. He incarcerates his body and disposes of his remains in the toilet. Lizzie waits for her son for 72 hours, disturbed and perplexed, so she calls the police and Officer Lloyd visits her, and she calls Toby's only friend Jamil. Jamil attends the interrogation, but he cannot tell Lloyd of their involvement in I Came By. He thinks of a much better solution and visits Hector's home. He takes a letter directed to Hector from his email box and then puts it in Toby's secret drawer. He calls Lizzie's attention to the drawer, and when Lizzie sees the letter, she takes it to Lloyd. Lloyd remembers that a young boy called to report that a person was locked in Hector's basement, so she takes her crew to Hector's house for investigation. As they get there, Hector tries to avoid the investigation by telling her he is on his way out, but when she insists on entering, he allows her. She checks through the house and finds the secret basement. She sees another door with a hole behind it and asks him about it. With so much confidence, Hector whispers to her ears and asks her if that's all she has. Angrily, she arrests Hector for obstructing an officer in doing her duty. With Hector's connection with William, he gets released almost immediately, and Lloyd calls Lizzie to inform her she found nothing. Lizzie, who cannot take the pain of losing her child, gets distracted at work. She rechecks Toby's room and finds his USB. She puts it on her computer, but she doesn't know the password, so she gives it to one of her patients to help her crack it. She starts tailing Hector, and she watches him enter a room. At the place, he is attended to by a Persian Indian boy named Omid. Omid talks to him about his struggles being gay and how his parent disowned him, and he had to apply for asylum in the UK. He tells him about how his application got denied the first time, and he has reapplied. Hector tells him he can help him. He asks when he finishes work, and Hector waits for him. They visit Hector's home together, and Hector gives him a laced drink. Hector engages him in a conversation and tells him about how his father found a Persian boy working in his workplace, and he took the boy home. From living in their house, the gay boy Ravi took over his mother's place in the bedroom, and his mother was taken to the guest room. Depressed about life, his mother kills herself, and he finds her with her wrists slashed. Instead of feeling guilty, his father sends him off to a boarding school and continues to live his life with Ravi. So one day, he returns from school and crushes Ravi's face. Omid realizes he is at risk, and he has been drugged. While Hector is distracted with his story, Omid drags himself outside. Hector tries to bring him back, but he sees Lizzie's car outside and returns inside. Lizzie helps Omid and advises him to go to the police, but he refuses because he doesn't want it to affect his application. Lizzie calls Jamil and informs him about what she had done. He advises her to visit the police, and she calls Lloyd. The following day, Hector goes to Omid, who refuses to talk to him. He blackmails Omid so that he can get his application rejected. So Omid enters his car, and Hector kidnaps him. He checks Omid's phone and sees his conversation with Lizzie. He finds out Lizzie is Toby's mom, so he purposely leaves his key outside the house, hoping that Lizzie will enter his house. That night, Lizzie receives a call from her patient about the USB. She sees pictures of I Came By and finds out Jamil isn't on it. She visits Jamil and begs him to break into Hector's home with her, but he refuses because he doesn't want to risk going to prison now that his son has been born. He returns home, and Naz accuses him of something that happened with Hector. He refuses to reply, and he starts drifting apart from her. On the other hand, Lizzie visits Hector's home and falls into the trap. He tells her he flushed her son's ashes in the toilet, and he also kills her. Jamil calls Lizzie several times to be sure she is fine, and when he can't reach her, he visits her home. He finds out she is missing. He returns home broken down, and Naz tells him she is getting out of the house with her son. Several months later, Naz visits him. She tells him that her supervisor told her Hector would be reading her dissertation as Hector will attend an alumni anniversary with Philip at their school. Before leaving, Jamil asks Naz if they still have a chance together, but she replies that she doesn't know. On the anniversary day, Hector leaves the hall and throws Naz's paper away immediately. He drives into an estate, and Jamil tails him there. He enters, and they get into a fight. Jamil overpowers him and ties him down. He goes to a studio attached to the estate and finds the same man Toby found earlier. He helps the man, calls the police, and leaves the scene covered in blood. On his way, he calls Naz and cries to her. Lloyd arrives. She enters the estate and sees Hector tied beside the wall. On the wall, there is the painting left by Jamil, I Came By. This film portrays a young boy with no political experience trying to fight to make things right in society. Everyone is fighting for something. Toby and Jamir were fighting for a great country where the rich and the poor could live peacefully. Not to forget the devil in saints' clothings. The wolves in sheep clothes and the affluential used their influence against the people. The young boys came by and made changes. we can do such too. I will recommend watching this movie if you are looking for political thrillers. Thanks for watching another essential recap. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe.